Okay, year 11. This video is on Animal Farm, key quotes to do with power. These aren't all the key quotes you should learn, just some of them. And I'm going to give some suggestions for the language methods and the effects. It may go over 2 videos. So as I said, these shouldn't be all the quotes you learn. These are just some that I find particularly useful. Okay, so this one you definitely should learn. All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. The key word here is the connective but, okay, because the use of the word but immediately invalidates this part. All animals are equal. Okay, so the use of the connective but immediately invalidates that. If you think of somebody giving a fake compliment, so, you know, your hair's really nice, but it would look better a different way. As soon as they say that second half, the first half goes. So that but is important for language analysis. And you've got the other key word here, some. Yeah? They're talking about some, and it relates directly to status. Okay? And the idea that equality means decency. So what they're essentially saying here is that a decent life is appropriate for one group of animals, some animals. And if you want to link this to the rest of the novel, you've got, if you have your lower animals to contend with, he said, we have our lower classes. That's Mr. Pilkington. He's talking to the pigs. And there it's spelt out. This is about class. This is about how communism has not eradicated class and snobbery at all. It's the same, and it's Orwell just saying, you know, this is hypocrisy, this is corruption, the idea that once you have power, you become one of the some, and you can get hold of this extra equality. There are sayings about never trust someone who wants to be a leader. It's an interesting one, because obviously you do want leaders who want to be leaders, so they'll lead you properly. But some people, like Napoleon, might be doing it for twisted reasons, or some people might be tempted. You know, all power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. As soon as you become the some, the temptation is there. Okay, you could also talk about the contrast here, and you can also talk about the others. Okay, the other, in terms of a lot of sociological theory, is often groups that are disadvantaged. So the other would be the woman, it could be the person in the ethnic minority in the country, it could be people that are oppressed. So the idea of the other being lower status than the some, yeah, all to do with status. Okay, the next one, you might be thinking, well, what has this got to do with power? It's quite a joyful one. Beasts of England, beasts of Ireland, beasts of every land and clime, hearken to my joyful tiding of the future golden time. It's the power of words, it's the power of song, it's the power of narrative. We all learn by narrative. It's how the brain is programmed. So when you're a child, when you're first learning about digestion, for example, at school you'll do the story of food going through your body. Yeah, the story of this, the story of that. It sticks in your mind. So they had to tell a song, they had to tell a story, they had to have this music to win the hearts and minds. So it is part of their power. Yeah, and it contrasts with this joyful song, with any point of suffering. So when Boxer dies, the suffering of the windmill being knocked down and the eggs being taken, the idea that they are singing this song to keep their spirits up. Why do they need a song to keep their spirits up? Is there corrupt power? Is their spirits being kept up? Manipulation. There is some irony here. They denounce the idea of sugar candy mountains. Sugar candy mountain symbolizes religion, which was called by Karl Marx the opium of the people. The idea that the idea of heaven would make you do what you thought was good, and then your leader could tell you what was good, and then you do what your leader said, and that religion was fake and it was just there to get you to do what you're told. The big irony here is, of course, that they're doing exactly the same thing. The golden future time isn't heaven, it's meant to be on the farm. But when will it happen? In 100 years' time, will they still be waiting for the golden future time? It's exactly the same power struggle as religion, exactly the same manipulation. And in contemporary context, you could look at the way that you get people who denounce religion from the point of view of atheism. And when you actually look into a lot of stuff online, there are atheists who are extremely sexist, extremely racist. There are some very dodgy people out there. And when they're challenged, they will often say, but I'm an atheist, so I can't be racist and sexist because organized religion causes a lot of racism and sexism. Well, that's true. It doesn't mean that you can't have dodgy values just because you've got a different belief structure. It's what you do, but not what you say. And here they are doing exactly what a hymn would do. Yeah, a hymn is a religious song. They are holding up a future time to control the masses. It is exactly the same as Sugar Candy Mountain. There is an irony there and a hypocrisy there. So the Beasts of England song, at the time it was a hymn of beauty, because they thought the golden future time was very, very soon. But then as the pigs take over, it's no longer that. And of course at the end they start to even repress that. They're not even about winning hearts and minds, they're about pure oppression. But there is that irony there, where they're setting up this golden future time. What is it? What is it? Is it the same as Sugar Candy Mountain? And we know that the propaganda and the ideas in communism were every bit as manipulative, ritualized, etc. as a religion. You know, people chant things together in a religion, and in communism, people would chant things and go on big marches. It's a kind of brainwashing there. So link it with the idea of Sugar Candy Mountain and the irony that they're using a hymn to convince people. Okay, next one is another one you should definitely have. 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. Okay, you've got good and bad, very simple language, because of course these are uneducated farm animals, which makes them easy to manipulate. You've got the characters who love this saying most. It's the sheep. Yeah, the connotations of sheep. Followers. They're chanting it. They're not thinking about the meaning behind it. And then, of course, it gets changed to 4 legs good, 2 legs better, which is very similar linguistically, but fundamentally different in terms of language. As soon as you get to this idea of better and best into the world of superlatives, you're ranking people in terms of status. They're ranking animals in terms of status. And there's a conceptual thing, the idea that you get in a dodgy situation when you ascribe the morals to a label. So how many legs you've got. Yeah, not how you behave, how many legs you've got. They haven't separated the behavior from what they look like. Yeah, so they're saying, oh, if you're a person, you're bad. Yeah, well, if you're a really good person, no, you can't be, you've got 2 legs. And in fact, the chickens object to that because they've got 2 legs. And then if you've got 4 legs, you're good. What if you're a really bad pig? There's several really bad pigs. Well, you know, the danger there is when you have a revolution and you oversimplify complicated issues. So if you're looking for those conceptual marks for a 6, 7 or 8, the idea of this ascribing moral values to appearance and a label to avoid complicated issues. You have to do that to seize power. You have to do that to create a revolution. But after that, when does it, you know, when do you empower people to have that discussion? When do the animals get empowered to have that discussion? They don't. The pigs just take over. Yeah. So there are several things to talk about that. And obviously you'll be talking about the simple adjectives good and bad. You'll be talking about the repetition of legs. So the repetition of legs will be matching to that appearance and the shallowness of the statement ultimately. I must work harder. Well, what has this got to do with power? This is about the misuse and abuse of power. Boxer is exploited for his power. He is powerful in a different way to the pigs. He is physically powerful. If he wanted to, he could do great damage. And in fact, he does. He kicks the boy in the farm and kills him. And he regrets that. So his power is actually his weakness, because his ability to work is what causes him to be exploited until he dies. Contrast him with Molly. She is useless to them. So she doesn't have that issue. Yeah? His usefulness and his physical power is his weakness. There's again an irony there. And you've got, if you're talking about the structure of the novel, as he is worked and ground down to his death, the lazy pigs who do not work harder rise. If you were to do a graph with his health and status and happiness, it falls as the pigs rise. So from the structure of the novel, it's almost like there's a big X across that graph. You could talk about they're almost feeding off his physical power and off his efforts to enable their lifestyle. Huge structural element of corruption there. They're clearly exploitative. It's clearly a case against them if you were looking at any kind of criticism of the pigs. Okay, so this is a bit from the start, from Old Major, and it's probably going to be my last one now, and then I'll do some more on power in a part 2. So this is Old Major, and he's talking about how when you're an animal on a farm, you're going to get killed. Yeah, that's why you're there. If you run out of usefulness, or if you're made of, something tasty, because you're a cow or a chicken or a pig, you're going to get killed. To that horror we must all come, cows, pigs, hens, sheep, everyone. Even the horses and the dogs have no better fate. You, boxer, the very day that those great muscles of yours lose their power, Jones will sell you to the knacker. Massive foreshadowing. What's being sold here is that if the farm was led by pigs and other animals, he would get a retirement. Ultimately, what does happen? On the pig's journey to becoming like humans, one of the big steps is, as referred to in the last slide, when he dies, it's at the hands of the knacker. He is sold to the knacker. It's your first big, the pigs are turning into people moment. There's this idea of violence, and the ultimate exploitation of a person is their body being exploited and destroyed. Yeah, the idea that their body is being killed to be consumed and eaten. Yeah, this is a metaphor for any exploited humans. Of course, they're not being cannibalized, but the animals live to be eaten by the humans, and that's a strong metaphor for how the peasants were farming to feed the rich. The rich weren't eating the peasants, but they were being worked to death. They were being worked like machines. So that act of violence, that act of threat, it also kept them down. If you've got someone who can kill you, you do what they say. Link that later to the pigs with their dogs who tear people apart. Actually, that's more violent than being sold to the knacker. So you've got this idea of power being put in place by the threat of violence. And you've also got subtler level, this idea of luck. Old Major calls himself lucky because he's a breeding pig. This could be symbolic of the idea that those who started the revolution, so you have Trotsky, you have Karl Marx, you have Lenin, you have Stalin, none of them actually came from the lowest proletariat. They actually were privileged. They came from the bourgeoisie. They came from the upper classes. They could see it was corrupt, but they were lucky. They had jobs like being a lawyer and an economist. They were lucky. They had an education. So here you've got a bit of an irony here, that in order to free the proletariat, you have to yourself be privileged enough to get that education and get the ideas and have the time to think. And it's a privileged person who did that. And as I said, it links back to every death the pigs inflict. One of the huge motivators for the animals in Animal Farm was that they were being exploited to death. They were being killed and consumed. And later they are killed, but what's even worse is they're not even consuming anything. Yeah? They're just being killed for disobeying. So it goes from that idea of exploitation to full-on oppression. Okay, thank you for listening. I've got a couple more, and I'll do part 2 in a little while about power. Don't forget to subscribe, click like, and leave me comments, or speak to me in school if you'd like any other videos made.